The objective of the book is to put the study of capital into history and to show that, income and wealth is not only about numbers and about money. This is about social groups. And indeed, today, we are going back towards the kind of concentration of wealth than we had in the 19th century. Now, the problem with this, inequality is not a problem per se. It can be good to put incentives to have growth. The problem is that when it gets too extreme, first it's actually useless for growth. It can even hurt mobility. It can make it more difficult for new groups of the population to access wealth and to access power. And also it can lead to a capture of our political institution by a small group. And these issues about income and wealth, are too important to be left to economists. I think these are issues for everyone. And the main purpose of this book is to give everybody a lot of material, a lot of historical evidence, so that they can make their own mind.
Tell me about the rise of the super managers in the United States. These CEOs, these executives who make so much money.
Yeah, the question is it useful? If this had brought a huge growth performance to the US economy, that would be fine. Now, the problem is that you have, top managerial compensation rising, top inequality everywhere, except in the growth statistics. So, the growth performance of the US economy in the past 3 decades has not been terribly good. The per capita GDP growth has been 1.5% or something. So, if you get 2/3 of that to the top 1%, there's really very little left for the rest. And, that's not a good deal for the rest of the population. So, I would say, okay, you have to pay managers well if you want them to do their work, but, do you really need to pay them, 100 million or even 10 million instead of 1? Do you get better performance in those companies? You don't see it in the data. Germany, Sweden, Japan, which have had the same productivity growth without this huge increase of the share going to the top 1%.
In this period after World War II that we're talking about, there was a powerful proxy for the worker, for the 99%. There was a political force representing them. How does the decline of unions play into this?
You're perfectly right. This is a serious challenge, and it's not that we are going to have the same unions again, in the future, but certainly we need to find new ways, to change the power structure. The government and the taxation system can be one way, but this is certainly not the only way. So, new forms of property are emerging. If you think of, foundation or crowdfunding, in the media system or in the cultural industries, that can change, the power system. It's important also to remember that together with the unions, a powerful force, in the post-war period that will keep the distribution and the balance of power into equilibrium, strangely enough, was the Soviet Union. And, I think the Bolshevik Revolution, certainly in Europe, had a strong impact on the elites that sort of, in France, the very political groups that refused the income tax in 1914, suddenly in the 1920s thought that after all the progressive income tax is less dangerous than a revolution. And I think with the fall of the Soviet Union, we have come to believe that, unregulated free market capitalism can solve everything. And, I think markets can do a lot of things. They can create wealth, and we need private property not only for wealth creation, but also as a condition of personal freedom. But there are things that they cannot do alone. And so, this balance of power between the different groups in society, we need democratic institutions, new collective institutions, new form of collective bargaining and deliberation for the decades to come.
You can't just concentrate all the wealth at the top 1% and the top half of 1% and the top 1/10 of 1% forever, right? I mean, at some point, the rest, if there's no opportunity and doesn't share in that progress, it can't go on.
Yes, the rest will react in strange ways, because sometimes if you don't find rational ways to solve your inequality problem at home or your domestic problems, then you have to find someone to blame. So you find, you say it's the fault of China, you say it's the fault of Germany, the fault of other ethnic groups, and I am seriously concerned about this, in Europe right now, but I think in the US also sometimes you have political conflict between different groups. I think everywhere we have basically the same problem of trying to get very different people together to find common solution and keep globalization going.